it's just, I want to get better. I'll do anything, I just want to get better. And that helps the teacher very much, you know, because it's very, as it is, you know, it's very challenging. Okay, so Jeon is from Korea, and he went to study in Germany. He's been there for the last 6 years, studying at the Conservatory Academy. What is it called?
University, actually, Hochschule.
It's a Hochschule, okay.
Yeah.
So a university, conservatory university. And he's had several teachers because his father is a pilot, so that every 2 years they moved around.
Yes.
Was that in Korea?
Yeah, it was in Korea.
Oh, it was in Korea. So he's had a lot of piano teachers in Korea. So even though my piano playing, he says, was mostly fingery, I had learned all kinds of so-called traditional piano playing from all the different teachers. Relax, overusing the upper arm, overusing the wrist, I guess breaking it, finger tension and finger intensity, maybe that's isolation, or kind very, very fingery, etc. In retrospect, I always had a kind of pain and tension. However, I had never considered those problems as a big issue until I got severe pain in my wrist. And that's what very often happens, you know, we're in a world where we figure that what's happening is inevitable. And I'm doing a short talk in a music medicine meeting, and my subject is, are musicians' injuries inevitable? And we know that they're not, unless you do certain things consistently, you know, and sometimes it's not even, you could have learned something, and left even the teacher, went to another teacher, it's still there, and you don't know what's there, you don't know what you put in exactly, you don't know what's right, you don't know what's wrong. So the pain started around 3 years ago, and I had to take a break for 6 months as it was really severe. I usually had pain. Did you go to doctors also?
Yeah, I went to doctors, and I also got, as I told you, acupunctures here.
Acupuncture. Well, acupuncture is great, but it doesn't make the pain go away if you have a broken wrist. You know?
I mean, it leaves, but it never, I mean, removed my pains at all. So
it did not remove the pain, yeah. Especially when I had to play lots of chords and octaves and practice like 8-9 hours a day to prepare concerts and lessons in the conservatory. So that shows, you know, how committed he is. Even though it was getting better after the long break, I still had sporadic pain, and then I realized that something is wrong with my piano playing. You know, we don't think something is wrong with the piano playing, we think something is wrong with the weather very often. We don't know what it is, but it's not the piano playing, you know? For sure, I studied with those famous teachers in those famous conservatories. How could anything be wrong? Furthermore, I was always dissatisfied with my technique, which sometimes limited my repertoire. No pain, no fatigue, nothing, just feeling limited. Already is a sign that something better. You need something better to open up the possibilities, but we think that's how things are. All those thoughts led me to look for better technique and eventually to here, to the Talmud technique. This is also, you went to the website?
Yes, I went to the website, I saw some YouTube videos, and then, well, luckily I found some blogs in German, which was Kenji's blog, and I just wrote the email to him.
Right, so we found one of our teachers, Kenji, Mariko's son, who worked with me for, you know, for a whole bunch of years, but has been in Germany for a long time. But he knows enough to make some changes. So he couldn't really work, when he worked with Kenji, you were still performing, you were still preparing, auditioning, so Kenji could touch on some things, but, you know, couldn't do more than that. And then, luckily, I came to Istanbul because of Darren to give a workshop, and Kenji and he came. And I gave him a couple of lessons, and he decided to come to New York. He felt a big difference, and he decided he'll come to New York. People are sometimes crazy like that, but it's a change. It's a change of life. This is how sometimes, you know, you see something and you say, okay, I'm just going to do it. Unfortunately, he has to leave again because of visa, but hopefully he'll be able to come back. So, you know, we went back to rotation and doing rotation in a much deeper way, you know, in a much deeper way. And what I wrote down, his wrist was too low, the nail joint, fifth finger and the third finger were broken. So you can talk all you want about being, you know, connected, but if something in the finger is not connected, something is buckling in. Sometimes it's also up here. Did you have it, Hugo, also? You know, the top, somehow it's not here, but I remember sometimes these knuckles go down. This ones. You know, they go, that's a collapse, what we call a collapse, you know. But then people hold up. So you don't hold up. If you just look at your hand, you know, the hand has a certain shape, and you have bones here. And those bones should not be moving. You know, when we move around, we don't move those bones. Only when we are taught to play the piano or string instruments or whichever, we're taught to drop the wrist and curl the fingers, which is crazy because no one can live like that or function. And then people say, from all that is happening here, it's time after time, they get such injuries and pain, they cannot do much in everyday life. That's how it works, because we're doing things that we could never, ever survive in everyday life. The hand has to be like that, and so on and so forth. So it was still fingery. We added some finger action at one point. It got to fingery. When he went for, so then the details came out. When he went, already he was better, right? Yes. You know, he felt better, but there were still symptoms. I can't remember if it was fatigue or...
Sometimes I just also
upper
from
arm.
Upper arm. And
the upper arm is still part of it, both of you. You know, the upper arm was still part of the action. How to get this free and to know what is the role. The upper arm, the parts that don't move, have a role. The role is to move along with whatever the active parts are doing. And to be there, the body has to be there. So this is connected and always feels, no matter where you are on the keyboard, the same. We don't restrict the upper arm, but I think that you went also when there was up and down or something.
yes.
I watch people like a hawk, you know, because if they come from a certain background, you say go to the piano, and it's already off because there was something like that already, sometimes very small. The upper arm is lifting because that's the habit. And then you go like that, and you bring the, and I say, just keep that where it is, and wow, that's like a new experience. Never felt that, because underneath everything that you're doing, the upper arm is involved. And that doesn't work in anything in life, and certainly not in instrumental playing. Anything that I'm telling you here, that's in a complicated way, but it's true of everything that we do in everyday life. If we reach from the upper arm, we will not survive very well. The single rotations were also stopped, and that can happen because the teacher, you know, when you show single rotations, sometimes people don't complete. You know, the single rotation is you playing, and then the continuation takes you to the next note. But sometimes people go, and they go immediately to the continuation, they bypass that moment of feeling that you're really playing the key. So we stop them. So in the training, sometimes in single rotation, we say, play down, then do this. In other words, whatever you're going, just to feel the difference between the playing and the next repertory motion, going to the next note. But sometimes, either the teacher forgets, or there isn't a chance to do it, the single rotations are still stopped underneath when people go faster. That's what happened also with you. And that stops speed, and that stops freedom. So, you know, so we have to be very aware again in the learning process that things like that can happen. You know, that people are stuck on a good step, but that's not the final step. We have to go to those final steps when the person is ready. He was ready for single rotations, not to stop. Then we worked on minimizing the rotation, adding a little bit of shaping. The left hand needed to get more over the fourth finger, as often, you know, the arm stays like that. That's a common thing. I don't know, is there anything else that is interesting that I'm missing, Jean?
Also, at some point, I just felt like my left hand was worse than my right hand because I got better right hand and then...
Right, so the left hand, which was the good hand, right?
Yes.
It started as the good hand, that's what happens. The right hand got to be so good, the bad hand got to be so good, that the left hand was not quite up to it in skills. You know, it's not that something was terribly wrong, but it wasn't as good. That's where we want people to be. You kind of, it's from the apple in the Garden of Eden. You know, your eyes are open to something new you never had. And you, oh my God, you know, there's all kinds of other, ooh, you know. This can really feel good. Then whatever felt good before because it wasn't so terrible, you know, suddenly is not so good. So we've been working on the left hand. And it's very important, by the way, to, even when things are good, to make sure that the left hand has passages as we work on the right hand. That there was still a tightness in the shoulder and a weak fourth finger that joined compared to I don't know what we did. We still went back and forth, which is also very common, from getting the arm really involved and alive, but at some point, sometimes the fingers go dead. And then you add some fingers, and then it gets too fingery. In very small ways. So, right, that's what happened. So I don't go back and forth because that's, you know, it's years of being there, you know, but really give them the sense of exactly, once the forearm is free, exactly the sense of how it feels together when the fingers just feel a little bit of the aliveness. It almost doesn't feel like they're moving, you know, they just, it's like the forearm, but they're not dead, you know, like that on the keys. They're not dead on the keys, you know, and they're not doing, I said you can rotate and still isolate because the fingers move too much. So it's still getting the sense that the forearm is moving, but the fingers actually make it possible to feel whole when they're responding. You can call it a response, you can call it a little bit of an aliveness. It's got to feel all the way to here. And we learn backwards because it really should be, the thing is, I always say, when you lift your leg, the body responds, right, to the movement, but you're doing it through lifting your leg and going forward. That's what happens here. You know, the legs are the fingers, but the way we have to go backward, it's like the body is lifting the legs. And the body doesn't lift the legs, it's a step, it's a long step in getting a frozen forearm that is essential to having a good technique and a healthy technique and a lifelong healthy technique that can do all the things that you want. So we have to go, it's what Talman called the tail wagging the dog, rather than the dog wagging the tail. I thought it was a good, you know, analogy. But it's, you know, I find that for the rest of life, because of all the training, I always have to feel, I know that I'm moving the fingers, but I'm always very aware, and I love that feeling of being perfectly connected. Because God forbid, you know, that would be lost. And it isn't, but it's, everybody can have their way of thinking. But what it is in the end, it can't be too much in one and too little of the other. It has to be what it has to be, you know, that it's a combination. So we want a little bit back and forth, and now it's okay? Okay. So let's go to the questions.
So first, Bach or Schubert?
Oh, and one of the things that you said, that you know, working on shaping, that the unintuitive shaping, the one that you would never think is the one that is working here, was the one that made the passage work. You know, so there is a lot that is what, at the beginning, we think we're such creatures of intuition. But the intuition, I think throughout life, and definitely in playing the piano, is not always the right one. Some of it can be very right, and I would say, if we naturally feel certain things and nobody touches it and gives bad suggestions, there's a good chance that it will stay that way. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. But actually, when you really get into the knowledge and what really goes on underneath, you know, this whole thing, you know, is very often the body has to learn to do, and then it feels very natural. But it feels, I think the unnatural is more, it's unfamiliar. Yes. It's very unfamiliar. Okay, so let's go, do you want to, the Bach, should we start with the Bach? Okay. So this is the fifth Partita, and there's some passage. So this is how the lesson goes. You know, basically what I'm doing here is how the lesson goes. The student, we are past the, I would say, the difficult era. And it's more but all the time working with both of them and other people, I'm aware of what happened, it's like somebody who's been ill and they're very well and everything, but they have to make sure that they eat the right things and they sleep enough and all of that to keep things healthy. Now, does that mean that they'll always have to do that? It becomes, again, very much second nature, but I tell people, you know, just keep in mind, especially the things that make it right for you, the strong things, I'm always keeping in mind. I mean, I'm more than ever before, somehow. I take things for granted, but not as for granted as I used to. Maybe because I have to analyze so much and show so much and go to such details, you know, more and more and more, that there's a lot that stays all the time in the brain. There's always a sense of alertness, I will put it this way, of observing, of being aware. Not necessarily having to do anything big or whatever like that. Let's take it.
So the first sketch is here. The measure 26. The finger here in the left hand is not clear.
26. Okay.
There it is.
Okay, see, I thought it was this.
Oh, this one, yeah. I have.
Oh, this one also?
Yeah.
I thought that you did the Hugo on me, who gave me all the wrong, all the wrong measures. Okay.
Here, do I have to use two? Then I have to go here, which I feel quite.
So what you're asking? No, you can go to 3, 4, 5.
Then I feel kind of.
Oh, I see. So what you're saying? I'm sorry. That's what you're doing, but
Yes.
you don't feel quite right. Are you doing what I'm doing? I mean, you have the shaping written, and it's correct. Okay, so going. This is what doesn't feel right.
Yeah, kind of right. It's stuck there between the black keys here.
It's again feeling stuck in the black keys. Could you do me one thing? You're out here, right?
Yes.
Could you move a little bit in? Sorry. Moving a little bit into the D, so you're really here. I think that you're a little bit here, and then you have to move in a lot.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
That's what you feel. Okay. So he's here, and then there's a big movement. Why does he have to move in? The fifth finger, the second shortest finger, is going to the F sharp, so other fingers have to go in. But the question is exactly what I was talking about before, and John and Bob and everybody, you know, we all talk about it. When do we start it? He's doing it on these fingers. It feels too much. It doesn't feel right. You know, could you take just those 5 fingers and start with a D close to the black keys here? Right, and this is the whole shape. No, that doesn't end here. It ends here. Right. Does that bother you? No. Okay. By the way, when you do a shape, do the full shape. If the shape doesn't stop, here it doesn't stop on the 5th finger, it really stops on the thumb. Even though it may have nothing to do with what he's asking, I like people to feel the full shape, because that's how you begin to learn. Where does it start? Where does it end? And you see that it didn't take care of the whole thing because he needed an in movement. Right there is the whole talk today. He didn't start in enough. How does he know? It's the same thing with the pitch. You know, because when you start here, it doesn't feel quite right. I feel it somewhere here, I don't know why. Like there's a feeling of a pull, you know? But if you start it here, so the question is when to move. This is a good finger to move on, so here you're just shaping over it. There's still what I would call forward, back, but you don't have to think about them. All you have to think is the overshape. So come from a little bit from before. No. Right. How's that?
That's good.
This is the whole talk. All I had to do is show this one example. That's what, you know. Because of that 5th finger, you have to be in. He was in, but not in enough. That's it. And that can keep him, you know, keep a person practicing for years, and the passage will still not feel so good. Because he does know that he has to move another step in. And that's, again and again, why we train and we learn and we have to keep training. Because those details can be in the way of having a free technique. It doesn't feel good here, it doesn't feel good in a few other places. Playing feels better, but not really free enough to forget about it and to think about the music. Okay.
In the next occasion is here. The oval shapes here.
Okay.
I still don't feel kind of.
So that would be interesting because we talked about it. So I showed him what the shaping is, and he said already, I'm totally frank with you, he said already at the lesson, there's a place here that didn't feel so right. I showed it to him. He's coming back and he's saying, it still doesn't feel right. So we have to see what is, hopefully, you know, there always is an answer, you know. So let's see how you do it. So my question is, could you do it just once more? And that doesn't feel quite right.
Yes, kind of here we talk about.
You always, do you know what I want you to do? One thing that I want you to do is, can you do it once, legato, and tell me if that feels differently? Of course, staccato and legato feel differently, but I want to know in terms of the shaping, does it feel different?
Yes, here I have to make an oval shape, but
that's what you complain about. So I want to show you something. That's what you complained about. By the way, here, I would also, you come in here, you're not in, I would go in here. I don't think you're in enough, even though you're not complaining. I would move a little bit in. And then I would move a little bit. Now there is, what I showed you, this is one overshape, and this is another overshape, those three notes. But I gave it to him as an overshape because it's an overshape, but I don't experience so much the overshapiness as much as I'm going more in, a little bit higher and coming a little bit lower. So sometimes, you know, even though there's a shape, when you have distances and all of that, you're not so aware of that. You're more aware of the lateral, the in and out, getting a little bit higher on it. Let's see if that is the issue. So do what you did, but start a little bit more in on the A. Right, first of all, how's that?
it's better.
It's better, and then go more inside. Yeah, more inside of the thumb. You want to be that in for the thumb to be at the edge here.
Okay.
Do it as an interval. Yeah, that's where you have to be. Now, when you come from before, you know, the hand is a little bit more here. Because the thumb is here, you need to move a little bit more to accommodate the thumb because you're moving, you know, you're playing actually the black key. Let's see if that does it. So that would be the first thing that I would try. And then I will go a little bit to the disconnected and see if it's still working. How's that?
It's better.
The only thing is he's moving into the 5, but he's also moving to the thumb. The thumb, you're moving into the thumb, to the 5th in order for the thumb to play here. If you're moving into the 5th and you're still moving into the thumb, you're going to twist or it's still not going to feel right. The only reason we're moving, the thumb shouldn't be more in than close to the edge of the black key. Here. And it's the rest of the hand that moves. And that's not an easy concept for people to immediately feel. They're moving to the wrong, you know, they're moving, but then they're moving more when you should stop moving. In other words, you're moving in for the thumb to be on the G sharp. Let's try it again. And really precisely. Right here. Is that different?
Yes.
I know that that's different. Because the other way is a little bit of a twist. How is that?
Oh, it's good.
Oh, it's good. So, you know something? That is, it looks simple, but it's not an experience that people usually feel because there's always a little bit of a twist there, right? By comparison to this, there was a little twist. Okay, now do the same thing with a little bit of the detached, but same movement, same where you are. Okay. Is that good? Not quite.
Not quite.
You know something? I would do it. This was better.
Yeah.
I would do say to him, I'm going to see you Tuesday, Monday. So I would say between today and Monday, practice it legato. Because you can access it a little bit better, and then at the lesson, we'll do it detached, and make sure, so do it once more legato. How's that?
It's good.
And keep going. Is there another one? Right. How's that? Oh, it's good. This one. Okay, so you see, so it's going from the thumb on a white key to a black key. So this one now, this is such a different feeling from the almost that, which creates still a pull on the fifth finger, a little twist. So those little differences are humongous. Okay, so we're going from here. I think I'm moving much more in than you do. Yeah. So this one, it's the same overshape. Coming out, I hardly move here, I call it a back. I don't even, you know, but this one is a big one. You know, and, oh, you know something, there's another thing. The forearm may not be adjusting to this. The elbow is a little bit more in. So you, again, as you're going to the fifth finger, again, this is the context. You're coming back over a distance and you're going back to a distance. So I want you, your elbow to be somewhere in between there. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
How's that? That's good. A little bit closer here. So you see the many pieces to many parts. Now I don't, if the leap doesn't feel so good, I'll go over the leap, but I don't think that that's the issue. There was still a little bit of a twist that I saw. Do it once more. 1 second, when you start here, make sure, yeah. I would say that it's almost to be expected that when the thumb plays on a white key and the fifth or the fourth, but usually the fifth plays on a white key, that it would want to sneak out. And that creates a twisting. It's just also, I remember the experience of playing actually in the right place, you know, inside, and thinking, my God, that feels so different. I've never been there. And that's the experience of a lot of people. It's like you've never been in that spot. So it's a lot of discovering new sensations. That's right. So you always have to be there for that. Right.
Here, okay.
And then there is adjustment here. So there are two things. So it has to be exactly right. Now it's good. So that's how it goes. Now, if you ask me how I know, I can't answer you exactly. You know, years of experience and immersion and all of that, and seeing that certain things don't get resolved, you know, you know, these are tools that we use. And then it goes, you know, somebody's doing already so well, there's no pain, there's no problem of that, but how to manage those passages, this is how we develop a skillful technique. A technique that has the skills that are necessary to play anything that we want. He wanted to go already from doing Mozart to the B minor Chopin sonata. He felt that he could. I suggested to just wait a little bit longer and to do, you know, some other things that have other issues, so when he gets to the sonata, it's not like you know, a huge jump. But this is so within a few months, you know, in a short time he started, within a few months, it looks like it's, oh my God, never complained, he was not a complainer. And that also helps, both of them. You know, complain about pain and all of that, that's okay, but I don't know how long is it taking, you know, they want a date, you know, and we don't give end dates. If you're good and you practice like that and the teacher is skillful, it's going as fast as it can go. That's what it is. If the teacher gets stuck in trying this and that, or the student, you know, so it goes both ways. Okay, let's couple more things.
Okay, here.
Oh yeah, so this is again a recurring issue.
Yeah.
Okay, so show them what...
Well, first is
which is possible to break it up like this, but it felt too busy. So I suggested
this one.
to play that, but he's not 1 to the 2 feel?
Yes, kind of. 1 to here, I feel a little bit not comfortable as much as possible.
Could you do it from before? Yeah. Yeah, it doesn't feel good. Okay. But I still think it's a good fingering, you know, so I'm going to try. I still think it's a good fingering. By the way, I'm more in here, you see? I wish that there was an over, you know, but I'm really all the way in. You see, Toka, it's like doing this, something like this. The 5th finger is really where it feels so connected and straight. I would come all the way out. I mean, you can always do something like that, but the hands feel a little bit like this way, you know, like underneath, not so easy. So it's still a possibility, and it could be that, you know, I also tried this. You can do this and start with it too, but totally a possibility, but I felt it was also a little bit busy, and still, could you try to come all the way out?
So 2 hands speak up.
And a little bit higher. Okay. And then there is the right hand. I still think, let's try. But start this one. Yeah, please. Yeah. Is that a slightly different place? How is that?
Oh, it's great.
Nice, good. Yeah, he was a little bit too close to the black keys. So when he complained, he said it is bringing this still as a complaint. I looked again. And I thought, what am I doing that maybe he's not doing, you know? And I found, also, do you try to be very connected? You still feel connected enough, but you're coming out, it's like doing this. Right, and don't go more into the thumb. Right. That was another issue, right?
Yes.
What's going, yeah, because, you know, you're actually in the right place to begin with. The arm is adjusting a little bit forward, a little bit forward, a little bit coming down, like this. But he was still walking in. So the teacher has to catch that. So he came all the way to here, and then you have a big distance to come out. Even that little bit makes already a huge difference. You in here, and then it feels close. That's right. And it's 1 over shape.
It's 1. So
it's 1 over shape, 5 fingers. One more question.
Yes, the chord play here.
That's what you said, that the chord doesn't feel good.
Yes, still a little bit.
Is it heavy? And wait, is this? Let's just check first of all the 5th finger. It may be in the right place. I just want to make sure that there's absolutely no twisting, not even a little one. Yeah. That's about the same, or is that a little bit different?
A little bit different. I played a little bit.
A little bit. Yes. The elbow was a little bit too in, so the whole thing right, and now also the balance looks good. And your thumb doesn't feel like this, does it? Does it feel a little bit, you know, like a normal thumb? A normal thumb is like that. It's not like that, even if it looks that way. Adrian.
I just had a question about why you wouldn't start on the white note slightly further out and go in gradually to the correct place, rather than being in to begin with.
Doesn't feel good.
Okay.
It feels like too much. It feels like too much movement.
Uh-huh.
When you can have almost no movement.
And from before to that place in, is it still this?
You mean like this one?
What's the passage before it?
You mean this one?
Yeah.
It feels like too much movement when you stay out.
No, I mean the passage before the beginning of those 4 notes is to be that far in.
1 second.
Oh,
this one. No, you don't need to be in.
Same.
I would be a little bit, I think a little bit more here. I would not be here. I would be a little bit more here, but I don't know, let me just see. I don't know if I would be in. Also depending what fingering you're using. What are you using, Jim?
2-4.
2-4 and then 1-4 and then 1. Okay, as my daughter would say, I lied. You know that I lied. If she says something incorrect, she says, oh, I lied. It's not a lie, but I gave you incorrect information. You know, I am actually inside. That's why everything has to be tried. I would actually be. Why? Because very little motion here makes me feel right across. And it's very easy then to be out here. It's a question, where does it feel more comfortable to jump from? From out here to in. It's like, it's doable, but it doesn't really feel very good. And I can't tell you, I think that again, you become very sensitive, you know, to what feels okay and what feels much better. Yeah. Right, really from across, yeah. Like if you play the C sharp, yeah, that's how you want to be. This much in. Right, how's that? It feels good. So sometimes if I know it's the right thing and the person is still not sure, I would say try it until I see you next time, because I'm very, very sure. And if I'm not yet sure, you know, I mean, I'll always try. I sometimes say, you know, I'm going to work on it a little bit, you know, just to make sure that it's exactly that. But there's a big difference. It seems, you know, it's one of those things that you will survive and you'll be fine if you're coming from the out. But this is the thing, that it puts you on a platform that is closer to heaven. Literally, to piano heaven. It really puts you on a different platform. So the things that you would manage. We're not talking about things, sometimes I say to people, this will not injure you, but this will make you feel really, really good. You know, and that's why I would go for. But if the person doesn't want to do it, it's, you know, it's their business. Eventually they will, because as the hands get to be more practiced, you know, and more aware, it's like becoming aware, it's like becoming more present, it's becoming more mindful. This is a practice of another kind of mindfulness. You know, that you discover that the other things that feel so good. Someone like him will come and complain a little bit. He says, oh, you see like the little bit of the in that he was missing? You still did all the other movements fine, but he's complaining. Because something can feel better. And he already knows it because he already tasted. Once your eyes are open, you know, it's very hard to close them again, right? Yes. Okay, guys, thank you so much.